Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the weather warnings as we do have yellow rain and wind warnings issued over the course of the next 3 days. We'll have a look at the UKV, look at the precipitation and the temperature over the course of the next 5 days, as it is remaining very unsettled and relatively mild, at least for the next couple of days. But as we head towards the weekend, it will be turning quite a bit colder, and snow, or at least winteriness, will be returning quite widely for areas in the north, especially over higher ground, but could come to low-lying areas as well at times. We'll then have a look at the longer range models, the GFS, GEM, ECMWF and the ensembles, because as we head into next working week, quite a cold setup following on from cold air arriving on the weekend. It is going to become quite embedded in over the country, and it's looking likely to be really quite cold, well below average for the time of year, with cold northwesterly winds, and there will be quite a lot of snow over higher ground, and snow could even come to low-lying areas as well. That is something, though, we'll concentrate on in a few days' time once those precipitation charts and snow charts come into the shorter time frame. But the headline for now is turning a lot colder next week, from a northwesterly flow remaining very unsettled, and quite a high chance of snow over higher ground, and a decent chance of at least falling snow widely as well. So we'll have a look at that over the course of this video and over the next few days. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. The link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, it's the opposite of cold today. It's incredibly mild and rainy. It's pretty horrible out there, and there's a lot of blustery winds around. Now, you can see a sort of typical low pressure pattern. We've got our warm front that is now over Scotland and heading eastwards. So lingering in northern England, but it's cleared most of East Anglia in the southeast, with that precipitation band now into parts of northwest Europe. We've got our big mild wedge, where it is pretty much thick cloud, horrible conditions out there. We're recording this around 3 p.m. and it's already getting pretty dark out there. Really quite depressing, these sort of patterns in January. And you can see within that thick cloud we are seeing a lot of this light rain and drizzle. Again, horrible sort of conditions. So yeah, even where it is dry, it's not particularly pleasant out there at all. You look further westwards and you can see the cold front starting to form across Republic of Ireland, and that's going to sweep in later this evening, and for many areas around sort of 6, 7, 8 p.m. more heavy rain will be spreading in from the west, giving another soaking. So it is a pretty horrible day out there. It is mild, but it's not feeling pleasant at all. And as I said, parts of Scotland just pretty much persistent, heavy to torrential rain, especially over the higher ground. And of course, because it's such a big mild sector, very little of this is falling as anything near wintry. A bit of a wintry mix there, a bit of freezing rain, but most of this is rain. Again, unfortunate for any ski slopes in Scotland, but they will be getting a top up certainly this weekend into next week. If we do put on those temperatures as around 3 p.m, you can see how mild it is in that mild wedge. You can see yellows here, just indicating temperatures into the low teens. You can see it's already starting to turn cooler through Western Ireland as that cold front is sweeping in. Still cold over the high ground of Scotland, but again, above freezing in most areas. And as I said, this will sweep through this mild wedge, and then we will be turning considerably colder later this week. If you look at the weather warnings, you can see we've got widespread warnings issued. We've got those 2 rain warnings that we have looked at quite a bit in the last couple of videos, so we won't look at those today, but they are still in force for northwest England and parts of Wales for more heavy precipitation through today. We've got a rain warning issued for western and southwestern parts of Scotland from 8:30 this morning until 7 p.m. this evening. 15 to 25 millimetres widely, with 25 to 35 millimetres over high ground, and possibly 40 to 45 millimetres over mountainous areas, and again will be accompanied by very gusty winds. Again, doesn't sound like huge amounts of rainfall from an individual event, but because we've had so much rain over the past couple of weeks, all this rain does tot up. We have another wind warning issued from 6 p.m. this evening until 10 a.m. tomorrow. Again, strong gusty winds through the northern Isles of Scotland, maybe 60 to 70 miles per hour in a few spots, and maybe 70 to 75 miles per hour through the north coast of mainland Scotland and the northern Isles in a few spots. Again, high likelihood, lower end of the impact. As we head into Wednesday, we still got that yellow warning, and through Wednesday and Thursday we've got this rain warning issued for parts of Wales and pretty much all of southwest England from 9 p.m. tomorrow until 5 p.m. on Thursday. Persistent heavy rain will affect parts of southwest England and Wales through Wednesday night, and Thursday. Again, 50 to 30 millimetres widely, 60 to 80 millimetres in a few spots, and again, very strong winds, 45 miles per hour inland and 60 miles per hour towards the coast. Again, horrible conditions in the southwest. Again, with the prevailing wind at the moment coming in from the west to southwest, all these areas are getting hit by the brunt of that precipitation and wind. Now, if you go over to the UKV and have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the course of the next 5 days, you can see the big, heavy precipitation band moving in at the moment. And you can see how, as I'm recording this, we are in that milder wedge for most areas where it's cloudy with light rain. That cold front will sweep through this evening, giving more widespread heavy rain further eastwards before dissipating away and actually seeing some clearer skies overnight tonight as cooler air does move in. As we head into tomorrow doesn't look like a generally drier day in places, but the last sort of day or so, a lot more showers have cropped up from the west. So the Republic of Ireland, Scotland, and most of Wales and southwest England are going to see heavy showers peppering in most of the morning into the early afternoon. Those showers shouldn't really progress much eastwards until around the early to mid-afternoon, where they will and could give quite a soaking even further eastwards, where it has been dry for the majority of Wednesday. So if you are further eastwards and you've got any plans for tomorrow, try and get them in for around 2 or 3 p.m. when the heavy rain, thundery rain perhaps even, does move in. That will eventually sweep eastwards, and the weather warning for southwest England and parts of Wales isn't even issued yet, but that's for this next big batch of rain. Moderate to heavy precipitation moving in for all of England and Wales, giving an absolute soaking, and that continues all the way into Thursday with more heavy rain in the far southwest. And again, big weather fronts sweeping in, giving torrential rain. And eventually, as we head towards Friday and Saturday, look how the air direction, or the wind direction, moves. It goes to a northwesterly. And again, doesn't look too apparent yet, but once this low here clears, cold air is wrapping back around, widely snow over the high ground of Scotland, and a lot of these showers by Saturday evening starting to fall as snow, even to lower lying areas. Again, evaporative cooling will help with this a lot, but quite widespread winteriness, and that's because behind that low pressure system that sweeps through, look at this, bitterly cold air that is running in. Again, it's a northwesterly airflow, so towards the surface the air is moderated, and that's why temperatures will still be hovering at freezing or above, but higher up in the atmosphere, it is very cold, and that will propagate down towards the surface, giving it a few days. And that's why I do think, as we head into early next week, there could be quite a bit of snow around, or at least falling snow in places. But yeah, very cold as we head into the weekend. Again, look at the dew points, though. You can see widely below freezing, indicating that cold air mass. And if we have a look at the max temperatures, you'll see how it does considerably drop later this week. So as you can see at the moment, in that mild wedge, it's widely 10 to 12 degrees. So yeah, really mild for this time of year. Overnight tonight, cooler air does eventually sweep through, and into tomorrow, it's more of an average day, sort of 5 to 7 degrees, maybe slightly above average in the far south and east. Through Wednesday night into Thursday, mild wedge does move in, so for areas in the south, maybe 10 to 12, further north it's cooler, and into Friday, much cooler, around 5 to 7 degrees, back towards average. As we head into Saturday, again a mild wedge in the far southeast, move through in the morning, and by the afternoon, again around average, or maybe slightly below average in a few areas further northwards. And then as we head into early hours of Sunday, widely temperatures dropping down to mid to low single digits, if not below freezing, as that cold air does move in, and a lot of those showers, as I said, falling as snow, or at least a wintry mix, with those temperatures starting to tumble. And again, we'll have to wait another few days until early next week, completely in the UKV timeframe, and then we'll be able to have a look at where the highest risk of any wintriness. Already just thinking about the setup, it will be across the higher ground of the north and the west, but widely elsewhere we could see falling snow. Maybe even some accumulations to low-lying areas at times if we get the exact right setup. But again, that's something we need to have a look at on the short-range models, as it's still around 5 to 7 days away from the start of the really unstable cold air moving in. Now, if you look at the GFS and have a look at the cold spell coming up, again, we can see a westerly flow at the moment. No sign of any blocking. And again, it's one of these northwesterly airflows. It's not a traditional blocking setup. And you can see how a westerly flow moves in, and then northwesterly comes in for Sunday, brief ridge of high pressure, and then this low pressure drops with very cold air within it, and we go into a cold, very unstable airflow. Now, a little bit of uncertainty here. The GFS starts to bring westerly flow back in. As we'll see in a minute, the majority of models, including the GEM and ECMWF operational, keep that low pressure over the top of us, and continue to drag in cold air from Greenland. So again, some uncertainty there towards the middle to end of next week, but at least for a few days it will go very cold from the GFS. And then we start to put in a westerly flow, going actually quite a bit milder all the way to the end of the run. So again, if we follow it back and see how these lows do drop, you can see cold air getting embedded in -5 isotherm, brief milder sector for the -5 isotherm comes in once again and giving us much colder air all the way to around Thursday time before a bit milder sector sweeps in, and then we generally go average to above average for the foreseeable future. But as I said, uncertainty with the exact timing of that. The GFS follows on from the other models until about 200 hours or so, and then it brings in a westerly flow, where the majority of models are keeping us colder for another few days. If we look at the GEMs, yeah, that does compare. Again, a westerly flow moving in at the moment. That northwesterly wind comes in, really quite cold, northerly flow. And then as we head into early next week, you can see how the high pressure actually ridges all the way to Greenland. We see a proper northerly wind here, bitterly cold northerly wind from the GEM here. And there would be plenty of winteriness around with this air originating all the way from the Arctic. For a day 10, we see more of a westerly influence, but still cold northerly winds. And again, just shows you what can happen even when you don't have a big blocking pattern. Huge low pressure over parts of Greenland. Again, traditional, very westerly flow, but with the Atlantic ridging, we are seeing a northerly flow take over for a few days, cold air get embedded within us, and again, that could open the door to potentially even frontal snow as we head into next week. Again, if we do run it back and look at the upper air temperatures, the GM run definitely is on the colder end of the ensemble members and on the spectrum in general, but it is not out of the woods sort of scenario. It's definitely something that is very possible. And you can see cold air comes in for Sunday. Cold air stays. We see a brief ridge of milder air there, but it does move through very quickly. Could turn things to rain for a time, but for northern areas could stay as snow, and eventually very cold air wraps in. Even the -10 isotherm comes in at day 10. And a good sort of 5-day cold spell there. Wouldn't say everything falling out of the sky would be snow there, especially to low-lying areas through central and southern areas and coastal areas, but it definitely would have the potential for quite a lot of winteriness there, cold temperatures as well, and again, very strong north and northwesterly winds making it feel very cold as well. Now, if you look at the ECMWF, see how that does compare. Again, a westerly flow at the moment. That northwesterly arrives by Sunday, Monday. We stay very cold in the northwesterly, and all the way till next Thursday, Friday, you can see again that northerly flow moving in. Again, the exact evolution and how much of a milder sector moves in there will decide how much snow we see and where that snow will be, but it is again very similar cold pattern. So you can see the cold air runs in by next Sunday, Monday time. A little bit more pessimistic in terms of that cold air moving in for the weekend, but again, cold air eventually sweeps in for Monday, Tuesday. Then that mild wedge comes in and pushing the cold air away temporarily, and then the cold air returns for next Wednesday to Friday. So again, temporary lull in the cold air perhaps by Tuesday, but still quite a good, decent 4, 5, 6 day sort of colder spell with below average and even cold enough for snow at times. If we do now have a look at the ensemble members, you can see this really well reflected from the latest GFS ensemble members, how up and down over the course of the next few days, but as we head towards the 15th, in towards the weekend, Saturday, Sunday time, considerably below average for a good 3-4 days, and then we have uncertainty around a week's time, around next Tuesday, Wednesday time, where operational run and a few ensemble members go very mild, others stay cold, and this is where we've got a bit of uncertainty there, and then we just generally stay average, very unsettled, so quite a big risk of some winteriness there. Look at the 2 meter temperatures. Quite cold, down towards 5 or 6 degree highs. Again, these are difficult to forecast on ensemble members at this sort of lead time, and again, because of the complex evolution of this coming in from the northwest, we'll have to wait for the short range models before we call anything. The new snow depth spikes appearing quite considerably from around the 15th to the 19th, and again, look at the dew points, you can see dropping to around freezing for a good 5 days there. So again, opening the door to the potential for winteriness. If you compare to the ECMWF ensemble members, again, showing quite a considerable cold spell there, all the way to around the 20th and beyond. Even more ensemble members keeping us cold, including the operational run there, and some keeping us sustained in terms of cold pattern for the foreseeable future. But yeah, again, consistency from both sets of ensemble members. And all of the operational runs for each turn is quite cold for a time, and potentially even for a good 5+ days, bringing in a risk of wintriness. If you go back to the GFS and just have a look at Glasgow, you can see how it is considerably below average for about, so again, 5 or 6 days. But remember, below average in Glasgow is a couple degrees colder than just below average in London. So again, this would open the door to a lot of wintriness. Again, the dew points well below freezing there, and look at the snow depth. Big snow depth spikes, some getting up towards 10 to 20 centimetres. Again, some of this will be marginal, but areas across Scotland and northern England could see a lot of snow early next week. It will be marginal, there will be uncertainties, some areas will be disappointed and get rain, but there could be a lot of snow around in places as we head into next week, with a lot of moisture within the cold air coming in from the northwest. So as I said, we'll have to see what happens next week, but it is turning into quite a cold evolution, with cold north, westerly to northerly winds, and repeated bouts of low pressure running into that cold air embedded within it as well. So again, we'll have to see what happens. But it's looking like we could be returning more to a sort of a wintry spectacle next week. As I said, we'll have to see. Wait for the short range models, but it is definitely turning quite a bit colder next week, and we'll see what happens. So anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you stay safe out there in the heavy rain and wind we've got over the next few days. And if you do enjoy mild weather, enjoy the mild weather we have now, even though it doesn't feel particularly mild. It is generally very mild compared to what we should expect this time of year, as I said, it'll be turning quite a bit colder next week. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.